guys, it's Ginger. This is, for now, this is the final installment of my favorite movies, and this is the thriller edition. This is going to have stuff in here that's considered thriller, psychological, sort of movies. So let's get started. First is Poltergeist. First one. I am not, no. I am not a scary movie type of girl. Not by any stretch of the imagination. But I do like psychological thriller type movies, and that's what I consider Poltergeist. Because the things that are scary in here are more like messing with your mind, man. But you don't really see the poltergeists until the end. Everything is just sort of playing games with your head. And this is a Steven Spielberg production. Basically, it's about a family who move into this house and all these weird things start to happen. And it sort of culminates in their little girl being snatched by whatever the heck is in their house. And they can only talk to her through the television set when it's all snowy and things like that. So it's about this family trying to get their daughter back from whatever weirdness is happening inside that house. And so an investigative team comes in, and a lady who I think she's like a medium or something like that comes in. Anyway, this is from 1982. It has Greg T. Nelson, JoBeth Williams, Greg T. Nelson, Heather O'Rourke, and Dominique Dunn. It's really good movie. Scary in a psychological sort of way. Screenplay by Spielberg, Michael Grace, and Mark Victor, and the special effects were from George Lucas's people, and we all know what they can do at Industrial Light and Magic, so that's a real good one. Check it out. Next is a modern gangster thriller, says Michael Wilmington of the Los Angeles Times. New Jack City. And I mean, it's got Wesley Snipes, Ice-T, Mario Van Peebles, Judd Nelson. This came out in 1991. The 1990s version of a gangster movie. It's got a lot of action. It's a thriller. Basically, a sort of gritty 90s gangster story, you know, all about the drug trade. Crack was the drug that was making all of the dealers and the gangsters lots and lots of money in the 90s. So that's what this is about. It's really good. Check it out. Judd Nelson is so good in it. Wesley Snipes. It's really good. Here is another one of my favorites. It is Mel Gibson in Ransom. And this is a Ron Howard film. It's so good. It's so good. Ransom. It has Mel Gibson. It has Gary Sinise, Rene Russo. Every single person who is in this movie is so good. All of these main stars are so good. I love Gary Sinise anyway. Love him. Love you, Gary Sinise. I love you. It's so good. Basically, Mel Gibson plays a very wealthy, I think he owns an airline. Anyway, he's a wealthy executive in New York, and he and his wife take his son out to the park, and he's kidnapped and being held for ransom. And it's so good. The struggle of these parents to try and get their son, and not wanting to be blackmailed and wanting to find these people who took their son. And there's this one scene, there's this one scene where this camera whips around and stops on all their faces, and you really get sort of the dizzying craziness of what it must be like to have your child kidnapped and trying to figure out what the right thing is to do. So check this out. It's so good. Next is, and I don't even know if this would be considered a thriller. It's a very, very good drama. A very good drama. So I put it under the thriller category because it doesn't really fall under action. It doesn't fall under romance. It, doesn't fall under a lot of the other categories. So I put it under thriller. And it's debatable on whether or not it actually is a thriller. But it's a very, very good movie. It's the Shawshank Redemption with Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman. It's so good. It's, up until this point, I wasn't big into reading a lot of Stephen King movies or Stephen King books back then. All I was familiar with was his horror movies. And it was, and after this one he did other ones like The Green Mile and things like that, but this was so refreshing to me that something so kind of not horror driven, very heartwarming sort of thing, very human type story that came from Stephen King, because at that time I hadn't been exposed to anything like that. It's so good. It's about this young man named Andy Dufresne who is basically framed for the murder of his wife and is sentenced to life in prison. And this takes place, I think it takes place in the 50s, I do believe. Anyway, this movie came out in 1994. And anyway, he becomes friends with Morgan Freeman's character. He ends up getting in the good graces with the warden, to the warden's dismay at the end. And Andy basically spends all the years that he's in prison trying to find a way to get out. Because for whatever reason, he has never been able to prove that he didn't kill his wife. And in the beginning of the movie, we know he didn't kill his wife. It's just really, really, your heart breaks for him, but it's a really, really good movie. And next is, this is such a good movie too. And yeah, I would think that it would fall under the thriller category. Kevin Spacey, Russell Crowe, one of the first movies I ever remember seeing Russell Crowe in, Guy Pearce, Kim Basinger, and Danny DeVito in LA Confidential. So good. Basically, it is about corruption in the police force. It's about tabloid journalism. They're trying to investigate some murders, and it all surrounds a ring of a prostitution ring where most of the prostitutes have been surgically enhanced to look like Hollywood stars of the time. And this takes place in the 50s as well. And the movie came out in 1997. So good. Kevin Spacey is so good in it. Russell Crowe. Kim Basinger is so good in it too. Oh, check this movie out. Next one. Oh. 5-time Academy Award winner, including Best Picture for 1991. This movie came out in 1990. and then just swept the Oscars the following year. Silence of the Lambs, with Jodie Foster, Anthony Hopkins. Jodie Foster's character is brought in to talk with Hannibal Lecter, who's a notorious serial killer, to try and find some clues to find another serial killer who's on the loose, who's called Buffalo Bill. So she has to try and get some information out of him to try and get a lead, because the woman who's recently been kidnapped by Buffalo Bill is the daughter, I do believe is the daughter of like a congresswoman or something. So this is a really good movie too. If you haven't seen it, you've been living under a rock somewhere and you need to run, and go get this movie. It's so creepy and so good. And Anthony Hopkins is terrifying in this movie. He's terrifying. And he's in a cage for most of the movie. And he's terrifying. Next is, this is sometime in the 1990s. It's Seven. This is a really good movie too. It's got Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman, Gwyneth Paltrow is in it too. And Kevin Spacey is in it as well. It's such an incredible psychological thriller. There's some grody stuff in here, believe me, because they are trying to track down a serial killer who basically is going around killing all of his victims based on the 7 deadly sins. So they are trying to stop him before he kills all of his people, all the people that he wants to kill. It's really, really good. Thrilling movie. The end of it, you will be like, what? Oh, it's so good. The next one is A Time to Kill with Sandra Bullock, Matthew McConaughey, Samuel L. Jackson, Kevin Spacey. This is what, like the 3rd movie that Kevin Spacey's in this group, in this edition. Basically, Samuel L. Jackson's daughter is, this takes place in, oh, it's supposed to be present day for when this was made, which was 1996. It's in, I think, yeah, Mississippi, a small Mississippi town. Anyway, Samuel L. Jackson's daughter is abducted on her way home from the grocery store. She's very small. She's like 9 or 10 years old. And she's abducted and viciously raped and hung and left for dead by a group of men. And it ignites a racial thing because the men are white and she's a little black girl. And Matthew McConaughey plays the lawyer who is defending Samuel L. Jackson. And because basically he goes and kills the guys who did this to his daughter. So he is on trial for murdering the rapists and attempted murderers of his daughter. It's so good. The funny thing about, and this is based on the John Grisham book, the funny thing about all of these movies, if you've seen any movies that are based on John Grisham books, most of them are set present day for whenever the book was written or the movie was made. And they usually, I'm pretty certain they all take place in the South because I believe John Grisham is from the South. And everybody is, when they're in the courthouse or they're in their houses or stuff like that, everybody's real sweaty. Really sweaty. And these are supposed to be taking place present day. It's not like in the 50s and 60s when they didn't have central air conditioning in their houses or in courthouses or public places or anything like that. So, you know, there was a time when there weren't air conditioners in people's houses in the South and you would burn up and you'd be all sweaty all the time. But these are supposed to be taking place present day for whenever it was written. And everybody is sweaty all the time. It's bizarre. I guess maybe it's supposed to be symbolic of the intensity of what's happening, I guess. And everybody's sweating bullets. What's going to happen? But it's a really good movie. Really, really good movie if you haven't seen it. Another one is Tom Cruise, Jack Nicholson, Demi Moore, A Few Good Men. I mean, it's got that famous scene, "You Can't Handle the Truth." And it also has, Kevin Pollak, Kiefer Sutherland, Kevin Bacon in it. It's such a good movie. So dramatic. Twists and turns if you haven't already seen it. It's so, so good. Basically, these two Marines are accused of the murder of a fellow Marine, and they are saying that they only followed orders. So, Kevin Pollak, Demi Moore, and Tom Cruise are defending the Marines in the prosecution, and there's lots of crazy twists and turns and cover-ups because the situation goes pretty high up. So check this movie out if you haven't already. It comes on TV all the time too. So in fact, I think I watched it on TV just a couple of weeks ago. Last, but certainly not least, is The Usual Suspects with Stephen Baldwin, Kevin Pollak, Gabriel Byrne, Chaz Palminteri, and Kevin Spacey is in this movie again. This movie, oh, it's so good. You do not know who the person is to blame for everything that happened in the beginning of the movie. You don't know who did it until the very end. And still, at the very end, you're not quite clear whether or not that person actually did it or not. It's so good. It won 2 1995 Academy Awards for Best Original Screenplay, or including Best Original Screenplay. Here it is. Here's the cover of it. It's this crazy maze. You're trying to figure out who did what and who the bad guy is and who were kind of the pawns, and really you do not find out until the very, very end, and then in the end you're still not sure what the heck is going on. It's so good. So I guess that's everything for this edition of My Favorite Movies, the Thriller Edition. So go and check out some of these movies that I suggested. Give me a thumbs up. Comment down below about some of your favorite thriller movies that probably weren't mentioned but you think I might like or somebody else might like. Give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to check out my blog, which is, and I'll list it right here. It's www.gingersholander.com, which is GINGERSJOLANDER. It's a Swedish last name, in case you were wondering. And I can be found on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google+, Pinterest, Twitter. Did I say Twitter already? So many different places. They better not come up, well, they have come up with some other ones, but I think I've caught my limit on social media platforms. Oh, it's too many to keep up with, man. Anyway, so don't forget to check me out in those places. Subscribe if you haven't already, because I don't want you to miss out on any of the latest videos. Because one of my New Year's resolutions for my channel is more reviews. Of all kinds. Makeup reviews. I'm thinking about doing a book review. A couple of book reviews. I'm going to see a musical in a couple of weeks, so I'll probably bring you a review on that. Yeah. So subscribe, because there's going to be a lot of interesting and crazy things happening coming up on this channel. So I guess I'll see you in the next video. Bye.